Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another exciting edition of Free Advice Friday. Looking forward to being able to dish out some more actionable, practical advice that you can use to grow your voiceover business. That is what we are all about. And today we are joined by Brad Newman, very much a beloved member of the voiceover community, the man behind Upper Level Hosting, the man behind Upper Level CRM as well. I think that probably the vast majority of voice actors on planet Earth have their websites hosted with them. And if they don't, they should.
Thank you,
And
Marc.
we'll get the CRM thing going as well. So looking forward to spending some time with you today, Brad, hanging out, getting some questions answered, tech questions that people may have, and figuring out things like setting up your hosting, setting up your domains, setting up your emails, and keeping your emails out of spam. We could talk about the mail check tool, which is a cool resource that Brad offers as well. So welcome, Brad, and you're streaming on TikTok while we're streaming on YouTube, and I feel like we're somewhere doing something wild in the Matrix or something.
Yeah, I am. I've got my fam over here on TikTok to my right, and I'm talking to you here, and I think it's great to bring two worlds together and see them collide.
So you've become a TikTok influencer in the last few months. Talk to us a little bit about that.
I'm gonna make it humble. I wouldn't say it's an influencer. I was talking about my horrible dating life, which is still pretty horrible. And some people started watching it, and then I started turning on the live, and now it's just a day in the life of me and my disorganized, disheveled hamsterness that spins up here. But it's been great. I think it's awesome to find a group of people that are really kind. I don't know about everybody else. I say you. When I think about social media, I start to see social media sometimes as being a place where it's not always positive,
Mhm.
and I think it's nice when social media is used in a positive way. So I think that's great. That's what my channel there is, and I know you use social media for positive stuff as well, with spreading all the advice and doing the things that you do. And a case in point is your podcast and Free Advice Friday that we're talking on now.
Right on. So if somebody wants to find you on TikTok, if there's anybody that's not following you yet, where are we looking on TikTok?
You can go to Upper Level CRM. The social media profile handle, if that's what we're calling it, is the same on every single platform: Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Um, I don't use my Twitter, but I think that's what it is. And there's one I think I'm missing: Instagram. Maybe I said it, maybe I didn't.
Okay, so let's start out with some questions. I'll ask you. I got a couple of questions I want to ask while we wait for some people to jump in and some questions to pop up. There was a very interesting thing that popped into the VOpreneur Facebook group yesterday, and I tagged you in it, so I'm guessing you've seen it. But somebody talking about how they had been trying to get their website hosting set up, and they were quoted $250 a month
Yeah, I saw
for their
that.
website hosting. And I nearly had a stroke when I saw $250 a month. I'm like, $250 a year, maybe $250 a month. I don't know what they're trying to sell you, but my guess is it's a lot of stuff that you don't need. How do we protect ourselves from situations like that when we don't know what we don't know? What do we need for hosting, and what should we realistically be expecting to pay for it so that we can avoid basically being ripped off, as far as I'm concerned?
Yeah, so first off, I don't know if that particular situation involved somebody designing and maintaining a site and also hosting it, and maybe they had that rolled into all of one fee.
Sure.
I'm not 100% on that, but if it was just the hosting, then yes, that's ridiculously high. I mean, as far as what you need, where you go, I think with anything in life, look for references or referrals from your friends and your peers. And that's no different than having a contractor remodel your kitchen. You get three bids and get referrals and look and see their work and talk to people. Questions are free.
Yep.
um, what do you need? You need good customer service, and I'm going to start with that, because if their customer service isn't reliable, then when you experience a pain point, it's going to just lead to frustration. Frustration eats your time, and time is your most valuable commodity. You need an SSL certificate. That should be provided, in my opinion, for free. And you need servers that are not going to go down. If you're constantly having to worry about, is my website live, then you need to, make a change. And
Yeah.
I think people are afraid of what a change is involved with. And none of that should be placed on you either. You don't take your car to the mechanic and worry about what they have to do to fix it. They have the knowledge and know how to fix it. You're just worried about what the repair cost is going to be. And the same is true if you're switching hosts. Um, get your estimates, figure out what they're going to charge you. And if they make your life easier and their referrals and references check out, then you're good. But if I'm distilling it down to what you need reliable servers, an SSL certificate that's provided for free,
Yep.
and excellent support that understands where you're coming from, where you're going, and what it is that you need, so you don't have to know the questions to even ask. Those are your top three things.
I know for me, when I made the switch over to Upper Level, whenever, last year, 2 years ago, whenever it was now, I know my problem was I had been with the same server for a number of years, but for whatever reason, they just got slow and it got bad. And I was having a lot of load time issues with my website, which is a big part of why I wanted to switch, because I know that that's really important. Which brings up a question here from Laura. Brad, what's the acceptable time range for a website to load? Google ranks this stuff, right?
Yeah, Google does rank this stuff, and load speed is very important. It's a large percentage of your load speed is going to be based on the server. With that said, if your website is designed poorly and full of bloat, that is also going to affect your load speed. If you take a horribly designed website and put it on a fast server, it's still going to load pretty dismally. Okay, so know that. The slow load may not be your host, but if you have your website designed by somebody who knows what's going on, then if it's slow, it very well may be your host. And there are tools that you can use to check that stuff out. But a good load speed, flip the question on yourself. How long are you willing to wait when you go to somebody's website for the content to show up on your screen? And the answer is pretty dang near instant.
Yep.
You're looking at anywhere between 200 milliseconds to no more than 2 seconds to start to see stuff happening. If I click and I think I don't see anything, by the time I finish the thought of maybe I didn't click it and so I click it again, stuff should be happening. And if it's not happening, that's a problem. Because by the time you have second guessed yourself, you should have clicked again and stuff should be happening. If it's taken more than 2 seconds for your website to load, that's not good. It may take longer than that for the whole thing to load, but it should feel like the website has loaded to you. You should start to be able to do things within a second or two.
Yep. Yep. No, that's valid. I mean, I can think of my own instances surfing the internet where I've gotten fed up. I don't know. I blame TikTok and Instagram for us no longer having attention spans. And so now we can't wait for 2 seconds for something. If it doesn't load in less than a second, we're already done and we're already moving on. But I think there's a lot of things that can go into that too. Like, I mean, one thing I know on WordPress is you can get 1 million plugins for WordPress, and all of those plugins can be really fun and they can do a lot of cool stuff to your website. But you got 50 million plugins running in the background, and things like that can even be what's slowing your site down, right? It's not even just specifically server speeds and all of that sort of stuff.
Right. You don't want to run any plugins that you don't have to have running. Where the give and the take really starts to come is, I need these running and my website is still slow, then your host probably has slow servers, which is very, very, very common. And to circle all the way back, if I can, and elucidate something at the beginning, Mark, you said you were with a host for a very long time, and all of a sudden you started to notice things. Hosts over time that are owned by a particular individual may choose to sell. And there is one particular company that loves to buy web hosts. And when they buy them, they pack the servers full. They start letting people go, so the customer support becomes bad. And they focus on just eking out as many dollars as they possibly can out of those hardware resources that they now own.
Yep.
So if that's happening to you, it's time to look to go elsewhere. Why does it matter when you get referrals and references? Because a lot of people just, they just Google for the quick answer and they're like, I'm going to leave this host because they're slow, and I'm going to go to this host because I read a great thing. Well, people will switch hosts, and this one particular company that I'm thinking about, they own 80, I think it is, different web hosts. And so you're likely switching from a brand they
Yeah.
own to another brand they own.
You think you're going
And
somewhere new, but you're not. Yeah.
no, they don't even move your server when that happens. They switch out the logo on the invoice and everything else stays the same.
Yep.
And so, make sure you're actually leaving the company that you don't want to be with anymore if you choose to switch. Real quick, guys, when Marc talks, can you hear him? I just want to know for my feed. Okay, carry on.
Question from Amy. I'm migrating my website to WordPress for a better SEO performance. So question come off the screen there. Hang on. Now the company I'm working with is suggesting a hosting company. I don't know what to look out for. Please help. Well, let me be the first to suggest upperlevelhosting.com, which is where I host. What are we looking for?
Well, did I hear the first part of the question correctly? Did they say that they're migrating their site off of WordPress or to WordPress?
They're migrating to WordPress. I'm assuming that's going to be WordPress is going to be the infrastructure, not specifically that it's going to be a WordPress.com website from the sounds of it. And that's why.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I
I
wasn't sure if they said migrating off WordPress, and then I was wondering to what. If you don't know what to look for and they're suggesting a company, regardless of who that is, and hopefully they're recommending me at Upper Level, but take their recommendation. And if you're in VoiceOver, you're already familiar of a great resource here with Marc Scott, and you're probably already familiar with his Facebook group that's for VOpreneur. But go into a Facebook VO group of your choosing and ask people what they think of that recommendation that your developer gave them. So again, coming back to getting those recommendations, especially if you don't know what to look for. So was her question, what should she look out for?
It's basically the company. It sounds like the company that's building her website is telling her you're going to need a hosting company, and she's just not sure what to look for in a hosting company.
So look for great customer service. Look for a free SSL certificate. Look for the websites that they currently host to be fast. Ask questions that if they're recommending a host that you choose, ask them if you can go with a different one, if you find a different recommendation from other people. Ask them the question of what happens if I go with the host that you choose and I'm not happy with that service. Are you going to back me up and take care of me when I ask you to move my website to a different host because I'm not happy with the performance and speed? If they're recommending this person, are they going to stand behind them and take care of it when they have to migrate your site and do you right? Otherwise, look for complaints. Google the company's name and Google complaints behind it. Google who owns and the name of the company, and try to do a little bit of research, and then ask if other people that in these Facebook groups or in this chat that you're watching right now, say, does anybody use this? This is who I've been recommended. Do you like it? Anything negative about it? Not that I'm trying to put anybody on blast, but people need to be able to openly ask for recommendations and basically see if the other customers are satisfied. Nobody's reinventing the wheel here. So if if other people that use it are satisfied, then that's a really good indication. If I were to boil it down again to three things, I wouldn't pay any more than around $15 a month for your hosting, or less. Maybe $20 a month if there's something specific that person is doing for you, like they're going to update your WordPress site and stuff as well. Okay, great. And everything should be inclusive in around that $20. and it should be fast, and you should be happy. If you're not happy and it's not fast and people don't have good things to say about it, go somewhere else for sure.
All right. Here's one from Shannon. I have a hosting and a domain, but I need some help building my website. Real basic question. When I hire someone, would I be giving them login credentials and they build it there? I'm so lost. Okay, so it sounds like she's hosted somewhere, needs somebody to build a website on the hosting. How
Yep.
does that side of things work?
Yes, there's two different ways that can happen. Some developers have development servers that they have and pay for, and they develop on those servers. And then when they're done, they move those off those servers to the client's host. Some developers don't have development servers, and so they'll ask you to get hosting, and then they will build the site on your hosting account that you have currently and put it in what we call maintenance mode that says, hey, coming soon, you're looking at a thing, and they'll work on it on the server that you're actually paying for. Either way is fine. It can be done either way. One isn't really better than the other. Unless you're really an established voice actor and you already have a website, you obviously don't want to take down your main one while they're working on one. So you could work with your host and ask them if you know, you can have a subdomain that could be used for development. Are they going to charge for that? And if they are going to charge for that, then know what that cost is going forward and make sure it makes sense to use that developer that's asking you to basically pay for that resource while they're deving you out. Otherwise, the developer can develop on their development servers. But it can be done either way.
Yep.
You don't need hosting if you're with a developer that has their own servers to develop on. You will need hosting if the developer doesn't currently have space to develop your website on. And again, either's okay.
I know this stuff can get really confusing and it can get really intimidating for people who don't understand how it all works. I mean, I can tell you, we've talked about moving sites, for example, and I can speak from my experience that I was hosted with a particular company, my website, which has been in existence for whatever it was at that point, 15 years or more. And the transition to move that entire website, which I think is what intimidates a lot of people, how does that all work? It literally was minutes. It's minutes, and it's over on Upper Level Hosting, and it works, and it's seamless, and nothing breaks. And so moving sites like that, it's not as scary, intimidating, or as confusing as it may necessarily sound. Here's one from Troy. I'm on GoDaddy for all, and how can I make the move and keep the design, layout, etc. that I have and be able to edit it as I do now, just move hosting only? So I guess that I'm not familiar with GoDaddy, how they build websites. Do they have their own
So there's
builder,
a couple
or is
of
it
questions.
WordPress?
First of all, is it built on GoDaddy's site builder or is it a WordPress site on GoDaddy? That's the first question that this person needs to ask. If it's built in GoDaddy's site builder, anything that's built on any site builder, whether it's Wix, Weebly, Squarespace, GoDaddy's builder, those are built in proprietary site builders and they cannot be moved unless the site is recreated in something like WordPress. With that said, GoDaddy has WordPress, they have managed WordPress, they have regular hosting that can run a WordPress backend. So if the website is in WordPress, then that can simply be migrated to any other host that runs WordPress. And it's super easy to do. The next question is, how is your email handled? Because if your email is purchased through a reseller, for example, GoDaddy does resell Microsoft 365, that's a little trickier to move. It can be moved, but it's a manual process. And so most hosts don't touch moving email and things. Or if they do, and they've helped you in the past, and some people this may ring true for some people that are watching, it's become a disaster and a hot mess. And that can get tricky. We do both. We will migrate your WordPress website and your email, and they're both going to be flawless, and there's no outages, and there's no downtimes, and it's just a particular methodology that we used here that we found works really, really, really well for us and causes next to no problems. We've been in business 7 years, and we've never had a single negative complaint, not one. So your host, if you're looking to switch wherever, should be willing to take care of all of these problems, make them go away, and make your life easier. And they should do it for what's affordable. And what is affordable? If you have a complicated email migration, $125 or less for the email migration. The website should be moved for free. And if your website is not through a reseller and it's directly with Google Workspace or directly with Microsoft 365, then that email is plugged in free of charge and nothing happens, and it's super easy. So don't be intimidated. Just, again, get the referrals, be happy with the cost, and make sure that the other people that use the service are happy with that service as well. And I think you're going to be pretty good and taken care of.
Excellent.
But yeah, if your stuff is on a site builder, it's going to need to be redesigned by another developer before you can move anywhere.
That's where things start to get tricky. Eh? That's where things like Wix and Squarespace and GoDaddy and all these things, it's a handy tool when you're starting out and maybe you can't afford to have a developer build it, and you can kind of drag and drop a website for yourself, and that works really great. But then when the time comes that you want to move or upgrade or whatever, it does make things a little bit more complicated. So again, if you've got any questions related to websites, domains, email, all of that sort of stuff, hosting and whatnot, feel free to type your question into the comment. If you could just put a Q beside it so it pops out in the chat for me, a little bit easier to spot. Here's one. I have a new domain and I want to start sending cold emails. So how can I protect my main email from being spammy if I want to send emails from it? So really, that's not a technical question, I guess, as much as it's a content of email question, mostly, right?
Yes and no. And this gets really complicated. And this has been the most complicated bane of my existence for the last 60 days. I don't want to put anybody on blast, but I can't talk about this in a generic way. So can I be respectfully frank, Mark?
You can be respectfully frank.
Okay. So as of late, a lot of people have gotten on this Apollo IO bandwagon because they hear the buzzwords of everybody talking about Apollo.
Yep.
My personal belief is this: a company should support their product. If I host your website and Google's running your email and you're using Apollo IO, I am being inundated with this question because Apollo is offering no support, to my understanding, and Google isn't touching it very much with a 10-foot pole. They want you to get multiple email addresses on multiple domains, and then they want you to pay to subscribe to this other email warm-up service that warms your email up, and everybody's just coming to me with their tech questions on how to make this happen with Apollo. I can't support Apollo. So if you're using them, that's great. Their support's going to need to step up. If you're on Google, you're going to have to log into your Google admin console and click that little question mark in the circle. That's online at admin.google.com. And you're going to have to play middleman between Google and Apollo and try to have them come to whatever they want. I'm more than happy if I host your website to edit your DNS zone records and put in whatever these companies specifically tell you they want in there. But I don't have a dog in that race because I can't support these $2 billion companies,
right,
when they're not giving you any help. And so I feel like that this question is based in that. Read the question one more time now that I've said all of that, and I will distill it down to a nice, clean answer.
I have a new domain and I want to start sending cold emails. So how can I protect my main email from being spammy if I want to send emails from it? Which I think in this case is probably more of a content thing than it is a technical
and
thing.
Quantity thing. Yeah. So be a respectable business person and follow the guidelines that your email provider has set out. And I'll tell you what those are. If you are on Google Workspace, you should not use a program to send any more than 130 emails per day, and you should not send them any faster than one email every 4 seconds. Those are basically the safe
Okay.
requirements for Google Workspace in a small business level. For Microsoft 365, it is it's technically 400 emails a day. I say stop at 300 to give your account room for you to manually send emails in your Apple Mail and Outlook. So I would not use a program to send any more than 300 emails per day. And again, no faster than one every 4 seconds. Once you adhere to those guidelines, be respectful in your email. Keep it short, keep it sweet, respect the person's time, and put your question or your ask first. So respect your email provider's outgoing limits, and respect the person's time that you're sending the email to. I personally would not email anyone any more than at a maximum once per quarter. That's every 3 months, no more than 4 emails a year. That's my threshold for all of my businesses, because that person gets a lot of email. And if they get an email every month from every talent that they get an email from, they're just deleting. And try to show that person a value. Don't make your email content, will you do this for me? Because then you're emailing someone cold that you don't know, and you're asking for something in return and they don't even know you. I make all of my email content either me asking you a question to figure out how I can make your life easier, or what I can do for you. And that isn't, I got fast turnaround, I've got great rates, I've got, basically all that means is give me a job. Try to identify what value you can offer that person you're emailing. So those would be my thoughts on how to make your stuff not spammy.
I think, and this is probably a generalization, but I think part of the area where voice actors run into trouble is I teach individualized emails, right? Send one email at a time, make every email personal. And
Sure.
and when I do that, which is how I've been doing it for many, many years, I've never had a problem with my emails winding up in spam. Where you start to run into a problem, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, if you're writing a generic message that's pretty much the exact same message with the exact same subject line that you're blitzing out to as many people as you can on a daily basis, that's where you start to run into more of a problem, because that's where it starts to come across as more spammy. Is that fair?
It is fair on more than one level. If your emails all have the same subject line and they all have the same 80 to 90% of the same content, that can be okay, because we are talking about the same thing over and over and over. But that's where how quickly you send them comes into play. If you're sending them all super quick and they all go to Google users, whether they're Gmail or Google Workspace, Google is going to start to notice that this sender is sending all of these people the same email with the same subject line that has 90% of the same content in the message in the body. And that can start to cause you more scrutiny, where slowing that down, even to one every 4 seconds, allows those things to get through the system and through the queue, so it doesn't see 800 of them at the same 4 seconds. So that can be helpful. Two, to what you're saying, Mark, if you are using a program, there should be personalization to it, at least on some level. And the more personalization there is, I'll say, the better. With that said, does cold mass emailing work? It does. Is it as effective as what Marc is doing? No. I don't believe in a numbers game. Yes, the more people you reach, the more people are going to reach out to you. but I really believe in quality over quantity. If
Yep.
I email 10 people a template boilerplate message, and Marc emails 10 people something that's thoughtful, that has value to that person, that he is going to do for them that's of benefit, he is going to get much more response, value, work from that than my 10 that I sent that was boilerplate. And most people try to find an easy solution. So their answer is, well, I'll just boilerplate 1,000 people, and out of those 1,000, I'll get the same 10 that Marc gets, and I don't have to put in the work. Find a balance there. I don't think it's all one way. I don't think it's all the other. I think if you really take your list and say, okay, these are 10 people I really want to get to learn to know more about, you can still use your program to automate to those 10 people you want to get to learn more about and really personalize that. And you can take a subset of that and you can try to speak to them in a way that is still valuable to them, that isn't, I'm a pro voiceover talent, I've got a booth, I do that,
Yep.
like try not to do what everybody else is doing. I ask a lot of questions. I use my outbound email marketing as almost like a private focus group where I reach out to recording studios or ad agencies and I try to find out, like, a simple thing like, what is your number one complaint about hiring a talent today? I'd like to really understand that so I can help solve it. You know, even a short answer reply is greatly appreciated. I find value in that because these people literally reply and tell me how to market to them and tell me what's important to them.
Yep.
And then that gives me a direction that I can go, that isn't just following the herd of what everybody else is doing.
I gotcha. So talk to us a little bit, because I think this is a good time to lead into that. And we'll get to some more questions too. If you have a question, again, feel free to type it into the comments, put a Q beside it so it pops out on the screen. But talk to us a little bit about Mail Check tool.
One of the things that help the deliverability of your email, whether it's going in the inbox, the promotions, or the spam folder, is if your email is set up correctly. And most people think that when I say email set up, they mean, well, I have my email address and I have my password and I put it in my program and the program is sending and receiving mail, so it must be set up correctly. I'm not talking about the settings for you to access your email. I'm talking about the email settings that belong to the email address that are on the server side of things. And believe it or not, I don't know if this statistic still holds true because we've talked about this 2 or 3 times and people have been using this and other tools and they've become knowledgeable in fixing it. But when we first started talking about this topic, 80% of people's email address settings were not correct on the server side. So you can go to mailchecktool.com. It's absolutely free. You can put in your name and your email address, and you can select Google, Outlook, Upper Level, and I think you can select Other. And it'll give you this report card or this kind of check engine light for your email address. And it'll tell you if something is wrong, not with 100% certainty, because obviously we can't program a tool that's going to know what needs to happen for everybody's other internet with every other provider. But if you're with Google, Outlook, or Upper Level, we pound out the top 3 straight out of the gate. And it'll tell you if something is missing and what's wrong. And you can copy that information and send it to your host, send it to support at Google, send it to support at Microsoft, and they'll help you assist in fixing it. And if those things are set up correctly, then you stand a higher propensity or chance to get your email in the inbox and not in the spam and not in the promotions folder. So it's free. You have nothing to lose. Go to mailchecktool.com and run the test on your email and see what it says.
And I've got it up on the screen if you want to see, to make sure that you're on the right spot. It's a pretty fairly straightforward, fairly easy site to find, but mailchecktool.com is where you're going for that. All right, let's do some more questions. Greg says, if I don't have a website now, what to consider first? Host, web builder, etc. And is it better to go with a one-stop shop like a GoDaddy? It feels like it may be short-sighted depending on future needs. This is actually a really good question because it's something I think a lot of voice actors try to work through.
Yeah. So the first question to consider with where you're going to go is, what is your budget for your website? And I say that in the best interest of the talent. Because first of all, if you don't know, I've been a voice actor for 29 years. So I feel you. And I know we turn out a lot of money on a lot of different things. If you don't have the money to get a website developed from a developer, then that's going to affect where you go. Joe Davis and Karen, who own voice actor websites, who can build you a custom website for your business if you have money for a developer. That's great. They just released voiceactor.com.
Yeah.
And voiceactor.com is a simple website builder that the hosting and everything is all included, and it is a site builder type thing. And that's one avenue for you. So let me distill this down. If you don't have a budget to pay to have a website designed for you, then you should go with a site builder. Voiceactor.com is probably where I'd go from the start and look at those offerings. Then you could check out like a Wix, Weebly, or Squarespace and find one that feels good to you, that's affordable to you, that works for you. I personally would not use GoDaddy site builder. I think it's very dated and antiquated. And I think it's it's also not a good choice because the SSL certificates on their stuff often is not free, and you'll get hit for another $60 to $100 for that.
Everything's an upgrade.
And with all due respect to them and their business practices, I find them to be one of the most expensive hosts when you add everything up.
Yep.
You may get a domain for a deal, but I think you're going to find yourself constrained and paying more than you need to. That's just my opinion. Take it, don't take it. If you don't have the budget, look at a site builder. Again, voiceactor.com, Squarespace, Wix, Weebly. I would look maybe in that order. If you do have the money to have a website built, then look at voice actor websites, maybe have them build one, use a different developer if you choose, and then find a hosting company that delivers on the things we talked about before. Affordable, high quality service on their servers where they're up and they don't go down, and when they have support answering questions, if you have them, even if those questions don't necessarily relate to them, they should at least be able to point you in the right direction.
What's the best way to future-proof? Is that WordPress? Like, is it really? Because you can take it anywhere. You can customize it in any way. You can move it to a different host or whatever. Like, do you run a risk? This is a struggle that I've got right now. You know, I've just moved my coaching platform to Kajabi, and I moved to Kajabi because I specifically wanted the course functionality of that site. But as I build out my website on Kajabi, I can't help but think that, you know, one day, if I decide that I'm not using Kajabi anymore, or I'm not going to do my courses or anything anymore, I can't just export my website out and move it somewhere else. I'm literally going to have to start over again. I'm going to have to build it over again from scratch, which I'm not saying that would happen, but it could, and it makes me nervous. So from a future-proof standpoint, I know a lot of people will start with a Wix or a Squarespace or whatever because it's easy, it's affordable. Some of them let you build a basic website for free. But once you're in that ecosystem, you're kind of in that ecosystem, right?
You are, and that's okay. You know, when you buy your first car, you're not buying the car of your dreams that maybe you want. And you may find yourself down the road trading that car in and upgrading to a car that you really wanted to begin with, but now you're only finding the ability to be able to afford that. And so that's okay. So if your budget is a site builder, you know, then go with voiceactor.com, go with Squarespace, go with Wix, go with Weebly. That's great. If your like Mark, and you're in Kajabi, he's there for a reason, because he needs the tools. And to be honest with you, your particular reasoning and desire and need to switch is because WordPress is great, but it's not great at everything.
Still limited, yeah.
And when you start to plug in all of these specific needs that you're looking for, it can actually start to become unwieldy and cause problems.
It means you get to talk to Brad a lot more because you have way more tech support issues. I got Brad on my speed dial, or I did have him on my speed dial for a while there. Brad, I broke my website again.
you don't, if you want this tool that does these specific things, then, taking a WordPress site and trying to build it into that probably isn't the best course of action. And it wasn't for Mark or really. WordPress is not the choice for really complicated actions. If you're doing, courses and subscriptions and all of these other things, you need a tool dedicated to that. That's not most voice actors. Most voice actors, I think WordPress serves them fine.
Yep.
And it does give you the most flexibility to move anywhere you want to later, assuming, and this is if you take nothing away from anything on this Free Advice Friday, grab your pen, grab your phone, and record your screen. Hear this now. Before anyone builds you any kind of website, make sure that if you choose to leave that developer or that host, that you're allowed to take those files, to take that backup and go somewhere else.
Great point.
Just because you're in WordPress, that is not the case. While technically it can be done because it's WordPress,
yep,
not every developer who builds your site allows that. They will tell people who want to go somewhere else that, oh, I'm sorry, this uses proprietary this and proprietary that, and we designed your website, but you do not have the rights to those pictures or graphics to use and take somewhere else.
Right.
So always ask that question before anyone builds you anything.
That's a good point.
And then know if you are with a site builder, because you're building in their site builder, that's proprietary and you can't take it anywhere you want to go. Yep. That you may have to say, okay, that worked well for me then because I didn't have a development budget, but now I'm going to go over here and I do have a development budget, and that's okay. You're just going to have to rebuild something. Mark went to a more complicated tool that does more, but it's actually simplifying his life because the tool is specifically made and built for that. And later on, if he decides he needs to change and he doesn't need all those tools, that's okay, because it simplified his life while he needed it, and now he can go back over here to something that's even simpler later.
I think it's important. I don't want to freak people out. Like, look, if you're Paul Strickwerda and you've built, the most SEO-rich voiceover blog in the history of the internet, moving your site to something different becomes a risk, right? The vast majority of voice actors were creating very basic websites. So if you built it on Squarespace, or if you built it on Wix or whatever, and it's a home page, it's an about page, it's a contact page, right? If you ultimately decide that you need to go somewhere and get your site rebuilt again, it's not like it's a massive undertaking. It's, my situation is unique. A Paul Strickwerda situation is unique. So I just want to clarify that. I don't want to freak people out like I'm going to lock myself in and I'm going to be screwed for all time or whatever. We are still talking about basic websites.
Trade that car in later.
Yep.
And it's funny you mentioned Paul, because he moved his voiceover site and his blog over to Upper Level. And he was nervous about, even though he was moving a WordPress site that he has built, but going from one host to another, he was nervous. I'm very elated and honored that not only Paul, but so many other people in the industry that have gigantic, huge names trust Upper Level to host their websites. And so I'm very thankful for the level of trust that people have put into me and my company, and I'm happy to help.
Right on.
If you do need to make a change, though, you make a change, and that's okay. I don't know what the percentage, but the vast majority of voiceover people are not making their work off of Google SEO search results. And even if you are, you're going to have a little dip, but if you're with a good host, it's going to come
It'll
back.
come back.
So,
Yep.
you want to worry about, can I afford this? Does my site load? Does it load fast? Is their support good?
Yep.
That's really all you need to be bothered with, and the rest will come with time. It's easy breezy.
Here's a great question from Shannon. I think this is an important one that people should understand. If I own more than one domain to cover my bases, say your name is Marc with a C, when everybody types it with a K, right? Can I point all of these different domains to a single website?
Yes, you can. It's technically called a 301 redirect, or I just want to redirect all of these domains to my main site. Yes, you can. The question you might really should be asking yourself is why you're buying a whole bunch of different domains. Are you buying it for the person, or are you buying it to satisfy a computer? And let me give you one example. Marc Scott. Maybe most people spell Marc with a K. Maybe most people spell Marc with a C. So if Marc says my website is marcscott.com, then he might have to tell people it's Marc with a C if he's audibly communicating that,
Yep.
right? So he might want to register Marc with a K, scott.com. He might choose to register Scott with one T or two. That's up to him, and point all of those to the main website to satisfy the human. And here's my point. Buying more than one domain to try to rank better in Google, two things you need to know. One, most voice actors are not getting their work due to Google SEO search results. We just said that. Two, Google does not index domains. They index content on domains. So if you buy Marc spelled 100 different ways, and they're all just redirecting to your main website, all you've done is put money out of your pocket into the hands of someone else for no reason.
Right.
So don't buy multiple domains because you think it's going to help more people get to your website, unless it's misspellings in your own name and you're telling people, oh, visit me online at marcscott.com.
Yep.
There is only one other reason to buy multiple domains. It's cheap protection of your landmass around. If your name is Laura and you do voiceover, and you don't want another Laura who does voiceover to buy up things that are around you so you two Lauras are not confusing other people, then you might buy LauraVO.com, and you might choose to buy VOLaura.com. And you might choose to buy LauraVoiceovers.com and LauraVoiceover with no S.com, just because you don't want other Lauras that do voiceover to put up content. So it's super cheap at $15 to say, that's mine, that's mine, that's mine, that's mine, that's mine. That is an okay reason to buy more than one domain. But don't buy it because you think Google's going to index you better. Because it's not. They don't index domains. Keep your money.
Here's one for Mike. Is adding a photo to our email signature a bad idea? This is something you and I talked about a little bit in the podcast. We have very strong opinions on fancy, convoluted email signatures. Tell us about this. How does it impact things from a spam and a delivery standpoint, or does it?
Okay, so I'm going to put a pin in that for just a second, and I want to keep this answer very distilled because I feel like I'm long-winded. That detailed answer is on a Marc Scott podcast at VOpreneur, available where all fine podcasts are. I think it's got my face on it. There's only two that have my face on it. Go and listen to those podcasts for a more detailed answer. I personally believe that everything you put in an email should have a purpose. If you feel that your picture being in your email or your fancy signature being in your email really has a beneficial purpose to booking you more work, to cause more checks to cross the desk, then put it. But just know, the more you put in your email, the more images, the more links, the more you are causing your email to be scrutinized by algorithms that are determining if your email is going to make it into the inbox or if it's going to go to the spam or the promotions folder. So ask yourself this: what is more important? Is email deliverability more important to me than my photo, than my social profile links? Is someone reading my message more important to me than photos and social profile links? Because email deliverability, in my opinion, is the number one most important reason of sending an email. That is why you're sending it.
Yep.
The purpose of sending that email is to book work, which means I'm going to get paid, which means everything I put in that email should be solely focused on causing my business to make money and a check to cross the desk. If anything doesn't serve those two things, my email being delivered and causing checks to cross the desk, then it is not important. Because if your email isn't reaching someone's inbox, then you cannot deliver your message that is going to cause you to get work. I do not believe that we need fancy signatures. I do not believe that we need social media profiles in our email signature. I do not believe that I need to give a history of who I am in my email to book work. That all can be said in your email signature.
Yep.
My email signature and many, many others are just text.
Yep.
My work history is listed in my signature, like Professional Talent New York. The fact that I have Source Connect is listed in my signature. It just says Source Connect ID and my Source Connect ID, and it has the ways you can contact me. My phone number, my email address, my main website. When you're on my website, then you can see a photo. Then you can go to my social media profiles. All of that comes after you listen to my demo, because the number one thing that's going to book me work is listening to my demo. I personally do not put my demo as an attachment unless someone has previously said, send me that, then I will. So maybe your first question is, hi, I've looked at your website and don't see a way to join your roster. Can you advise the best way to do so I'm being respectful of you and your time? Would you like me to attach it in an email? Thank you for your time. That would be an email I would send. It doesn't go into my history and who I am and my experience and all of that. I just want to know the best way to get my information in front of you and let that person tell you what that is. Don't overload your email with anything that doesn't meet those two goals. Message deliverability, finding a way for it to get you work. If you want to go one more, which is here the demo, for your convenience, not knowing the above, here's a link directly to my commercial demo. That's it.
Yep.
Move on. That's my answer. Keep it as simple as possible.
I know that there are a lot of questions, and we've tried to get to as many of them as possible. I want to put this up on the screen. If you want to get a hold of Brad, here are some of the different places where you can find him. He's on Instagram. He's on LinkedIn. He's on TikTok. You know, we mentioned earlier, streaming live on TikTok right now. upperlevelhosting.com, upperlevelcrm.com, both great services that you can check out. Brad, if somebody wants to reach out, maybe we didn't get to their question today in the broadcast, what is your preferred method of communication? Is it through the website or through one of these social channels?
Yeah, the best thing you could do is just email Brad at upperlevelhosting.com. Give me 24 hours for stuff that goes to that's question-based, because I am working on client stuff. But even if it's not related to hosting or anything else, I'm happy to at least put you in touch with a resource or point you in the right direction, even if it doesn't make me money or cause a check for me to cross the desk, because I believe in helping people find the resources that they need. So just email brad@upperlevelhosting.com. I would love if you guys want to follow on TikTok or anywhere else. It's Upper Level CRM is the username on every social media platform. Would love for you to join me about my horrible dating life on TikTok. That should be a hoot.
All right. Here's a question from Gary. What's a good online checker for determining the download speed of the website? We talked about how that's an important thing for Google.
GT metrics. You can Google GT metrics. It's great. It gives you some things to look at that can be tweaked. You're likely not going to look at that and realize like what it means, because it's kind of like looking at the code that's thrown on your check engine light for your car. The mechanic knows what that code's going to mean. So go ahead, go to GT metrics. You can Google it. Type your website in it. Let it spit back a result. Don't panic. If it's a C or a D, everything is fixable. Then reach out to your developer or your host and say, hey, I checked this on GT metrics. How can I fix it? And what does it mean? How can you help me?
Right on. Okay. So we got a couple minutes left. You want to talk a little bit about Upper Level CRM?
Sure. You know, I'm a big proponent. I love Upper Level CRM. I personally think that it's the best outbound marketing tool out there. It isn't ridiculously automated, but it does things the right way. And I think that means something. It's online at upperlevelcrm.com. It says you can request an invitation on the website. All that means is that you would like a trial. There's not a lot of info on the website about it because I like to talk with people directly about it. It's $12 a month. We bill it annually at $144. We do support fancy signatures because you guys want it, even though I think you probably don't need to use it. And I'll just say this. We've worked for 6 years on it. If you are interested in giving it a whirl, take a look at it. If you're looking for something free, then it's not for you. There are tools out there that are free. And some of them work excellent. I think that their support probably isn't the best, but that's what you get for free. Be true to you and what works within your budget. If you're paying for anything, then do at least look at upper level. Do at least take an opportunity to speak with me about why it may or may not be better for you. I'm not here to sell you something and put another dollar in my pocket. Honestly, I don't need it. I'll tell you if what you're doing is better off in somewhere else. I'll be honest with you. And I've told people, you're using Nimble because of X, Y, and Z. Stay there, stay put. Even if you're paying for it, it's the best thing for you. Marc had all these questions, and Kajabi is the right thing for what he's doing there. So even though that meant he was no longer a hosting client of mine, it's what best is for him there. And he is a hosting client with me on VOpreneur. It's just for his coaching business and your voiceover website.
My voiceover website, yep.
Yep, it's just for your coaching business. You needed all this fancy automation to do all this stuff to make your life easier. I'll shoot straight with you. So yeah, I mean, Upper Level CRM is a great outbound email marketing tool. We do need to grow the user base so I can continue to fund development on it. I have a very small but very wonderful development team. And if you like to support people that take time on Free Advice Friday and give advice for nothing because it's good for you, then try to find other ways to support those people in their businesses, or at least have a conversation and give me the opportunity to talk with you. And if you decide something's better, then hey, that's okay too. I still love you. You can still host here.
Right on.
So
upperlevelhosting.com is the hosting side. Upperlevelcrm.com is the CRM side.
And we do more than voiceover. So let me say one thing to everybody real quick. If you know other people that are in other businesses, whether it's dentistry, law firms, blah, 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 whatever, your brother, sister's cousin's mother has a hair salon, tell them about Upper Level Hosting. We host way more than just VO websites. And even if you only did me that solid, that would mean so much to me, that referral, than anything else. I greatly appreciate it. So spread the love to other people that are within your circle, even if they don't do voiceover. So many people have websites, and I would love to host so many other types of businesses as well.
That's a great point. You run the risk when you build such a strong audience in a niche. You run a risk of making of a false assumption that you're just hosting voiceover websites, and that is, I mean, a host is a host, right? You can get amazing hosting from Brad, who it looks like we just lost Brad, so we'll wait and see if he can pop back in or not. There he comes. All right, hang on. There we go. Lost you there for a second.
Yep, don't know what happens. There we go.
So anyway, I was just saying that, you know, it's you have become known as like the hosting site of choice for the voiceover industry, but that does not mean by any stretch of the imagination that you are limited to that. It's not the way hosting works. It's not like you have to have a specific host for a specific industry or something.
No, right. And I'm super flattered that everybody, and honored that we are the #1 host for voiceover websites in the US for sure. We're growing in UK and other places, but absolutely, we host anything that is honest, ethical, and business related. So please talk to your husbands, your wives, your daughters, your friends, your family, and say, hey, I use this for my voiceover business, but they also do other great stuff too. I would love that. That would mean the world to me, and I would forever be in your grace.
Right on. Absolutely. And I want to point this out. Julie mentioned great info. I'll have to listen to the playback. Just for those of you that maybe jumped in late, the replay video will be available as soon as we go off the air here. I'm going to go back and add chapter markers to all of the different questions that were asked and answered to make it a little bit easier for you to find specific spots in the video. But yes, if you jumped in late, you can go back and watch, and you can watch any of the Free Advice Fridays that I've done. They're all available on my YouTube channel. So please feel free to subscribe and check out all of the different videos that are there. Last week, I talked with Cliff Zellman, recently talked with Christy Bowen about e-learning. Uncle Roy was on answering home studio questions. So plenty of great information that comes through on these Free Advice Fridays. Well, Brad, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. And hopefully a few more people go and check out upperlevelhosting.com. I mean, I will say you are fast. Your service is great. It's something that I'm not always used to seeing. I'm very grateful for that. The service works great. It does what it says that it's going to do. And so, I mean, that's my endorsement. If you're looking for a good place to host a website, I would say that it is absolutely worth visiting upperlevelhosting.com and having a conversation with Brad about switching things over if you're looking to do it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the kind words. And if you have any questions that need clarifying answers on anything that I've talked about, please do feel free to email me, and I'll be happy to answer them in depth, either on a Zoom, on the phone, or via email. It's brad@upperlevelhosting.com. And Mark, thank you for always being a very kind and generous person, having great things to say, and once again, sharing me with your audience. I greatly appreciate you.
Absolutely, man. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. As always, whatever you decide to do this weekend, have fun, stay safe, and go find some leads.